Hey there, and welcome back. My name is Carrie Hyam. I am one of the Beach Boss influencers, and I am joined with someone who is usually in the background that does all of our tech, but he is the introverted network marketer, and that is Chris Burrows. And I'm so excited to have him here. He is one of our beach muscles here at Beach Boss Influencers. That's what we call him because he helps keep everything running in the background. And so it's kind of exciting that you're here with me, Chris.
Hey, Gary, thank you very much. It's great to be here.
We're going to be talking about the best hacks to grow your network marketing team this coming year. And there's no one better to help talk about this subject than the tech master himself, Chris. So, Chris, people don't really get to see or get to know you a lot. I mean, you come to our seven-figure influencer workshops when we host those. You're there with us in person. But tell everybody a little bit about yourself starting out, because there might be a lot of people that are listening, joining us, that don't know who you are.
Yeah, that's great. So I've been building websites, dealing with the internet for well over 20 years now. And about 15 years ago, I got involved in the network marketing side of things. For a long time, helping people sort of build their businesses and play off tech to their advantage. And what I learned very quickly is that for most people, tech is absolutely terrifying. And I mean completely terrifying. It holds an awful lot of people back. Everything's going really well. They can talk to people, they can sell to people, but as soon as you ask them to do something that involves tech, they freeze, and they procrastinate, and they will sit there for a long time wondering how on earth they're going to get over these hurdles. So what I discovered quite quickly is that if we can give people a very gentle push over those hurdles, then they then fly along, and they then fly to success and don't have these issues. And in a lot of cases, the hurdles they create around tech are completely in their head. They can do these things. They just need that little bit of support and that little bit of coaching to overcome. So that's where I come in, and that's what I really enjoy doing is helping people and then watching them really explode and take off.
Yeah. Well, our students love you. I know that everybody that has the pleasure of working with you, and usually it's just our seven-figure influencer students because your time is so limited and so valuable. But those that have the pleasure of working with you, we absolutely love you. And you know what? Beach Boss Influencers would not be where we're at if we did not have Chris Burrows and our other beach muscle, Benjamin Pang, in the background, running the tech, you guys pretty much run the show. You boss us around, tell us what you need, and we we do what you tell us. So you know what? You're absolutely right. When it comes to tech, most people do freeze, and we see this in our students every single day when we're working with them. Tech can be overwhelming. A lot of people, they hear tech, especially, not to be judgmental, but the older generations, right? Like older generations in particular, they hear the word tech and they freeze up, and they end up halting their own progress because of these limiting beliefs around tech that they've put in their heads. So I guess, before we jump into some of these best hacks that we have, let's address that elephant that's in the room, because I'm sure there's people that are listening and they're like, oh, I am not going to even continue to listen to this podcast episode because we're talking about tech and I hate tech. What are some of the best things that our students, that our listeners can do to overcome some of these tech hurdles?
Well, the first one is really, really obvious and really, really simple. Ask questions. It is very rare for me to be asked a question that somebody else hasn't already asked, or to find a problem that somebody else hasn't already come across. And most people, 99% of people are more than willing to help and support you, whether they're part of your business, whether they're part of your team, whether they're part of a coaching community. Most people, it's certainly in our industry, are very, very supportive. So ask the question. There are no stupid questions. If you're finding it, somebody else has had it in the past. And the next thing is you've got the power of the internet at your hands. We live in an age where you can look up absolutely everything. So if you don't want to ask a question in a Facebook group or somewhere else, go ahead and Google it. Ask Google the question. And again, there will be somebody out there who has had the same issue and you'll come across an article, you'll come across a video that will coach you through that problem you're having. So yeah, knowledge is power, but the knowledge is there for you to go and find.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that when I first started, because I was one of those people that I wasn't a tech guru, right? Like when I first started using some of these simple funnels and some of these simple processes, it was very overwhelming. And I remember for myself, um, I guess my own piece of advice is you can't break the internet, right? You can't break anything that someone can't fix. And so I just started pressing buttons, learning
Yeah.
what different systems did, learning what what this button did. If I click this, what would happen? For me, I built my first website myself. I didn't have any help. I didn't have anything in the background. I broke it multiple times, but because I had to go in and fix it myself, I knew that website in and out, back and forth. Like, it was faster for me to go in than to pay someone else to go in and do it because of how I had things set up. And so, I mean, yeah, tech can be challenging. It can be overwhelming if you allow it to be overwhelming. But when it comes to overwhelm in general, the best thing that you can do is take action. And even if that means just pressing buttons and learning what different things do. A lot of our students, they get stuck in that overwhelm, and that's what we teach them to do every single day is, okay, you're in general, how do we get more specific? What's one thing you might do right now to move forward or to overcome this challenge or to overcome this hurdle? And it's the exact same thing with tech. Let's get into action, because taking action and actually doing is how we're going to learn a lot of these tech hacks that we're going to be talking about throughout the remainder of the episode. So, I guess what you started, Chris, what I guess is one of your favorite tech hacks that network marketers are definitely going to need in this coming year?
So the biggest thing that I always say to people, or the biggest tip that I give to people, is always around passwords. So again, we live in an age where we have 1,000 different passwords, or we should have 1,000 different passwords for different things. If you're somebody out there who's got the same password for everything, please go and change them now. We live
You're
in a day.
telling me, Chris, my password's the same for everything.
So, but the reason people do that, and the reason they set the password to everything, is because it is really difficult to remember what you set the password.
Yeah.
When we've got hundreds of different websites and services that we access, it is really, really tempting to use the same password. But obviously, the security around that is terrifying, and getting worse and worse as we go year on year. So the solution to that is to use something called a password manager. And a password manager's job is to come along and to store all of your passwords in a central secure vault that you can come along with. You can put in one password to access the vault, and then it will do the heavy lifting of keeping everything else secure and in a place that you can access it. And when you think of a business like we've got on our scale, we literally have thousands and thousands of passwords for various things.
Mhm.
We're very keen on security, so those passwords are all random numbers and letters and symbols. So you would have no chance trying to remember those in your head. So we rely heavily on our password managers.
Mhm.
That's the first tip. And there's various passwords managers out there on the internet. Just a quick Google search will bring some up. And you can get started with ones that are free. So there's not really any hurdles or anything to stop you going out and do this, other than a little bit of time then to work through the passwords you've got and start changing them and randomizing.
You're absolutely right. And, having a password manager, absolutely, if you're not using that in this coming year, that needs to be one of your homework assignments, is doing that, because the last thing you want is someone guessing what your password is for one thing and being able to access everything, your entire life, right?
And the key password there is your email password. Because if you
Mhm.
think every time you forget a password, you go and click the forgot my password link on a website,
Yep.
that sends it to your email address. So if somebody can get into your emails, they can literally get into everything else. So if
Yeah.
you're going to change one today, that is the first one to change.
So now that we've talked about password managers, some network marketers, they might not be, heavily invested in tech right now. They might be where I was. I guess it would have been back in 2016 when the beginning of 2016, when I was first kind of venturing out into the tech world, because I knew that it was, going to be the best way to grow my network marketing business. Some people, they might not be heavily into the tech world yet. So what are some simple funnels people like that can set up that aren't overwhelming, aren't challenging? Let's talk a little bit about what some of these simple funnels are that we might need password managers for.
The whole idea of tech is to make our lives simpler and to
Yes.
sort of give us pieces of automation that we can go to bed on a night, and our businesses continue to run when we're not sat in front of a screen or when we're doing other
Yes.
things that we much prefer to be doing. So it's probably worth explaining what a funnel is for anybody who's
Oh,
who's not yet
absolutely.
listening to us. So a funnel is a system where we take somebody by the hand and we walk them through the steps that we want to take them to get them to our goal at the end, whether that be joining our team or that be buying a product or service. And the idea of doing that is that if we're holding their hand throughout, they can't get lost in that funnel. And that might
Mhm.
sound silly, but it is very easy for people to get confused and distracted. There's kids and there's pets and there's phone calls. So it's very
Yep.
easy to lose people. So if we're holding their hand throughout, we can guide them exactly in the direction we want to do that. And there's lots of funnels. We can build simple funnels, we can build very complex and advanced funnels. But the idea is we take them through a set of steps. So we work out what process we want them to go through first.
Mhm.
And we generally start by offering them something of value, which we normally refer to as a lead magnet. And the idea at that step is that we're going to collect a piece of information from them. And that piece of information is generally their email address.
Yep.
And the idea there is that once we've got their email address, we can continue to communicate with them, even whether they
Mhm.
buy anything now or whether they do drop out. We can continue to have that information, but they've given us that in exchange for something valuable, which will be useful to them.
I wanna put this in a simple. I guess I wanna make this even simpler for people to understand, for those that have no idea what we're talking about. So, when this concept was first introduced to me, at the time, I was growing my business traditionally. I was having to call and reach out to every single person one at a time, right? So it was one to one, one to one. I mean, it would take me sometimes months of following up with one person to just get a no, right? And it was frustrating because all of my time was going into one person at a time. When I was introduced to the concept of funnels, and bringing some of just these simple processes in place, it's now one to many, to where, like Chris had said, we're building an email list, or it doesn't even necessarily have to be an email list. There's even simpler funnels than that, right? It could be like a Facebook group. But I was introduced to emails, and that's how I grew my entire business from 2016 onward, was through an email list. And so I in growing this email list, if you're one of these people, these network marketers, that you're having to reach out to one person at a time, you're having to have one conversation at a time, you're having to follow up with one person at a time. I want you to compare that to being able to follow up with hundreds, if not thousands of people at once. Who's going to grow their business faster? Who's going to, hit the top ranks faster? Who's going to make money faster? It's how we compress time. We add a few pieces of automation to where I'm following up, building relationships with thousands of people at once, compared to how I was growing my business before, which was one to one. So hopefully that visual kind of helps you grasp how incredible automation and tech can be when you're willing to just kind of get out of your own way and learn a few of these processes.
Yeah, so it might not be that we're collecting an email address. Like you said, a Facebook group is a really good example. So one of the things Facebook allows you to do in a group is to set up some joining questions. So we'll have all have seen this. You go to join a group, and there's a set of questions there that you have to answer before you actually get access. Well, it's very easy there to ask somebody for their email address, as well as the other questions, and then it's simply a case of popping that into a Google Sheet or even writing it down in your notebook. Not the best way from a tech point of view, but you are recording that information so that you can then use it later on and
Yeah.
continue to communicate. And again, once you've got them in the group and you're adding them to your messenger lists, you're smoothing out that communication,
Mhm.
and making it as easy as possible, like you said, to compress time. And once we've got them onto that sort of initial list, whatever sort of list it might be, we can then move them on to the next stage. And that might be, it might be trying to move them into some sort of contact with us, whether that be a Zoom call or a phone call, wherever that might be. We can move them onto book appointments. We can move them onto sales pages and, more sort of advanced type stuff. But we can take them in exactly the direction we want them to take in. And we can warm them up as they go along. So the more they move through this funnel, the more they get to know us, and we build that relationship as we go, so that when we do jump onto a call, we already have a relationship. We're not strangers meeting in the night.
Mm-hmm.
They know us, and we know about them, and we've got a starting point for a really great conversation on that call, rather than it being awkward. And because as you said, I am the introverted marketer. I hate talking to people. It is not my forte. And conversation doesn't always come easy. So if there's a starting point, then that's great, because you've already cracked it. You can at least have a friendly chat. Even if it goes nowhere, you've got a starting point.
Yeah. So for you introverts that are listening, this is an introvert's dream, where you're not having to fish or sift and sort people yourself. You literally are only hopping on calls with people that are excited to talk to you about your business, because they know everything about it, right? When I hop on calls to, I guess you could say, close people, for a long time I was a professional closer, and that's what I did. I was a high ticket closer. I mean, these people hop on excited to talk to you. They hop on excited about whatever it is that you're going to present them with, because they already have all the information, and they're whipping their checkbooks out, right? They're not you've overcome all of the objections before they've ever hopped on a call with you. And so for an introvert, where it sucks your energy, to hop on calls as it is, imagine, instead of having to hop on 10 calls to close one person, because you're having to overcome all the objections, and you're trying to use high pressure sales tactics to close people. Instead, you're able to close 3 or 4 out of 4, right? You have less calls with more qualified people, and the conversations are an introvert's dream, because it's really about connecting at that point.
There's nothing worse than jumping on a call and then finding that somebody's completely not qualified. Whether that be that they're not in a country that your opportunity is open to, or whether they need to make an investment and this person simply hasn't got the means to do that. It's a waste of their time. It's a waste of your time, and it's really disheartening. To find that you've jumped on a call, you've started a conversation, and then actually it's gonna go nowhere. It's nice to make a new friend, but from a business point of view, not really very productive.
Well, that's the reason most network marketers quit, right? Is because they get told no so many times. The rejection, they hear no more than they hear yes, and because of that, they're just like, well, this isn't working. This isn't going to work for me, so I'm out. There are people that they have influence. They have that influence. They have that, the network starting out. And that's the reason they fly to the top ranks really quickly. But for someone like me who didn't have that, I mean, it took me 6 months to enroll my first customer, right? Like, to enroll my first business builder. Like, I enrolled 0 people after talking to hundreds and hundreds of people those first 6 months. Most people aren't willing to go through that. Right? They're like, no way. And so when you have automation that helps build the influence, helps build the network for you, all the heavy lifting, when it's done by the tech, that's when your business becomes fun, because you're actually making money. Your team's actually growing.
Absolutely. And one of the key things about the tech is that in a lot of cases, it's a case of set it up once and then forget about it, and it just runs and it does its own thing, so you might not like it, you might find it painful, but you're not doing this every day. Once it's set up, it just runs.
Yes.
And it saves you all that pain, and you can get on with parts of your business that you actually enjoy doing, rather than worrying about the other bits. Great things, and you mentioned it briefly before, Carrie. It's a tool we have called Lead Magics, and what Lead Magics allows you to do is to automate some of your Facebook messaging. So I'll give you a great example of this. I have a friend who's in an opportunity here in the UK, and she runs events. And when she's got a special offer on, she'll go right the way down her Facebook friends list, and she'll send messages to people one by one. Now, if you've got 10 friends, that's fine. If you've got 1,000 friends,
Yep.
that is extremely time consuming and not productive at all. You could be doing much better things with your time. So what Lead Magics allows you to do is to automate that process and to build simple funnels. Again, back to the funnels, build simple funnels in the system that can then send out messages automatically for you. Done in a Facebook compliant and a non-spammy way, but you literally set up your messages or set up some simple message templates, and then the software will take care of the rest of it for you. Tell it who you want it to send to, and it will just work down that list whilst you go off and do something else. So if you imagine how much time that could potentially save you, it's absolutely massive. You know, and then there's other features in there to help you build relationships. So it can send birthday messages to people. Again, completely automatic. You know, so sending birthday messages is a great way to grow your community, but it can be very, very time consuming, again, if you've got a big friends list. So again, the software comes along, it does that automatically for you at a certain time each day. You don't have to think about it at all. But I'll tell you what, and you've probably found the same, Carrie, but the number of messages I get back from those birthday messages saying thank you and reconnecting us is absolutely massive. People just don't expect anybody to reach out and say happy birthday.
Yes.
So they're really, really excited in a lot of cases when they do get those really nice birthday messages.
Well, the thing is it sets you apart. Like this birthday message strategy that we teach with Lead Magics, it sets you apart because, you know, when you think about Facebook in general, like they're trying to make it easier and easier to create engagement. And so what they do is they pop it up on the newsfeed and they say, hey, it's Chris Burrow's birthday. Wish him a happy birthday. And they even have happy birthday, now the text there. All you have to do is click it and you've wished Chris a happy birthday. So people are getting, you know, hundreds, if not thousands of birthday messages on their wall. But when you're able to send a genuine birthday message through Messenger, they might only get 1 or 2 of those on their birthday, right? And usually it's only from like their mom or their sister or their really close friends. It's not from, you know, someone who they haven't connected with in 10 or 15 years. So when you're sending that birthday message, they're just like, holy cow, like, you know, Chris went out of his way to send this heartfelt, genuine message. And what they don't even realize is that yes, it's authentic, it's from your heart, but you wrote that message once. You wrote it once, you send it to everybody on their birthday every year, it's automated. And so now you're getting into these conversations with people and it's coming from a place of being genuine and authentic. And that's what builds the relationships, right? That's what builds relationships is when people feel that genuine and authenticity from you.
That's it. And it's a catalyst for a whole new conversation.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, with people that I haven't spoken to for a long, long time. And suddenly you're talking about what you're doing. You know, they might have seen your posts, but now they're suddenly asking what the posts are about. You know, because you've shown some genuine interest in them, they reciprocate without realizing they're doing it. And they genuinely want to know what's going on in your world as well. So it's a great step forward.
Yes, definitely. And so when it comes to Lead Magics, I mean, we have, I guess, how can people get their hands on Lead Magics? Because, I mean, if you're not using Lead Magics to, you know, using these strategies, these simple birthday messages to where you can keep track of all of your Facebook friends message, you know, people in bulk, if you're not using it, you definitely need to. And this is probably the number one hack that if you're going to take anything away from this conversation, this is the most simple, easiest tool that you can start implementing now. I mean, we have templates of messages and funnels that are already in there for you, simple funnels, right? That you can walk people through in Messenger to get them to like join your team, those type of things. So if you're not using Lead Magics, you need to.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things to point out here is that we're so excited about this, and it's changed our lives so much, is that we start people off on this on a free tier. So it's not, again, there's no barrier there to stop you getting into this. It's not a huge expense or anything. But you can simply go to leadmagics.com, and that's leadmagic with an X.com. and you can follow it through there. It'll give you some more information, and you can sign up there and get up and running literally within 10-15 minutes.
Yeah.
And
Like there's step-by-step tutorials on how to install it, how to use it, how to work it, and you can't break it. Like we talked about before, just go in, press buttons, learn what they do, because using this tool alone, it's going to skyrocket your team this next year. I mean, to be able to use it to engage with your audience daily, if not weekly, to be able to use it for the birthday strategies, to be able to funnel people into your, Facebook groups that you have or into whatever it is that you're promoting, you need to be using Lead Magics this next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Most definitely.
Yeah. So with that, there's one more thing that I want to talk about, and because it can be really easy to think, okay, I am growing a huge following on Facebook or whatever platform you're using. I mean, whether it's Instagram, whether it's TikTok, there's people that are like going viral on TikTok and they have thousands of these followers. One thing that I learned was that if I didn't own it, there was always a chance of it being taken away. So let's talk a little bit about assets and what is that one thing that we should be focusing on, because social media platforms change every day, right? Like, you take a look at, I swear every day I log into Facebook or into Instagram or even TikTok and something has changed.
We need to make sure that we are protecting our own assets. And one of the best ways to do that is by collecting email addresses, like I mentioned before. Because if you're then storing them somewhere that's on your turf, if Facebook vanished overnight, we've still got a list of email addresses that we can then email everybody on that list and say, look, we know the community's disappeared because X has vanished overnight, but we're moving on to this new platform. Come and join us there, and we'll carry on the great work and the great community that we had. And again, there's a couple of different ways of doing that. Some easier than others. It can be as basic as using a spreadsheet, and just recording those email addresses somewhere, or we can get a little bit more advanced and we can put them into what's called an autoresponder. So that's email marketing software. And again, it doesn't have to be super complex. It doesn't have to be super expensive. But the beauty of email marketing software and autoresponders is that we can put all the email addresses in there, and then we can send mass emails to everybody on that list. And they're safe. They're sat there. I would still suggest you have a backup somewhere of those email addresses because they're not immune to disappearing either. But again, if you've got the list in a spreadsheet, you can come along and upload it to a new email marketing software if that were to happen. But it's a great way of making sure you've got that protection and that backup just in case the worst does happen overnight.
Yep. Well, and it's not even just to protect you against social media changes, but the network marketing industry is always changing. I mean, companies literally come and go every single day, right? Like if you take a look over a year, you'll probably have 100, 150, 200 network marketing companies, whether they change ownership, whether they go from public to private or private to public. They change compensation plans. Some get shut down. Others go out of business, right? Like that, the industry itself is always changing. And if you have spent all of your time, promoting your company and not collecting people's information, what happens if your company is to be shut down tomorrow? If you don't have a way to communicate with your team, to communicate with your following, to communicate with the masses in one easy spot, to let them know you're changing, right? Maybe you're changing directions. Maybe the company changed its compensation plan and your check was cut in half overnight. Happens a lot, right? And so you're like, okay, I've got to make a shift because I've got to take care of my family. And so you're moving to a new company. It's so much easier to be able to tell people what you're doing through one email than to try and reach out to people one at a time and have those one-on-one conversations, right? It's back to that concept of being able to talk to hundreds, if not thousands of people at once compared to one-on-one. Condenses time. If you want to be able to guarantee your success and guarantee your income in the industry and when you're using social media, you need to be collecting people's email addresses, at least in an autoresponder where you have a way where it's one place that you can communicate with every single person at once.
There's a key concept there. Your business is not your opportunity. Your business is you. You
Yep.
know, and your team is following you. They're not necessarily following your opportunity. You know, so if you do decide you're going somewhere else, there's a good chance that that team will follow you. You know, and you do need to be able to communicate with them.
Yep. And I mean, even just for the option and the opportunity to create multiple income streams. You know, Beach Boss was founded because, yeah, we were doing great in network marketing. We love our company, right? Like there was never like we loved our company when we started Beach Boss. There were so many people in other companies that we wanted to help. And when you are going to be putting your time and investing your time into other people, it's like, how can you monetize that? Right? If you're going to be spending time, let's make sure that we're monetizing that time, because time is our most valuable asset that we have. So it's like, okay, we had our network marketing company. We had all these people in other companies that loved the companies that they were in. So we didn't want to try to move them over to our company. That didn't make sense. Right? So it's like, okay, Beach Boss was founded, a way that we could help people, right? And grow the industry as a whole. And we launched that company and immediately were making money because we had an email list of people that knew us and liked us and trusted us. And it wasn't a matter of if we were going to have people, you know, come into the Beach Boss influencers world. It was a matter of how many and how fast, because of the email lists that we had, you know, spent the previous couple years building. If you don't have an autoresponder, if you're not building that email list, the easiest way to kind of learn how to start, I guess, leveraging some of these strategies for yourself, you can go to beachbossinfluencers.com. On the homepage there, there's several ways, but just get introduced to the Beach Boss world. It's what we do. We help network marketers make more money in less time, leveraging automation, right? And social media. And so some of these simple funnels that we've talked about, some of these simple processes, you're going to be able to learn in a step-by-step atmosphere and a step-by-step roadmap, where you're going to be able to ask questions, learn, press those buttons without having to worry about breaking anything. And if you do break something, you've got people there that are able to help you fix it. And I think that's what I love about Beach Boss the most, is that, you know, we're raising the industry and we're teaching people how to play a bigger game.
Absolutely. I mean, I love the community we've built, you know, and I love being able to help people in there, and I love that people in there, members of the community, are now helping each other, you know, and that's so satisfying to watch them solving problems before we even get to them. You know, that they've helped each other and they've moved on, and it's a brilliant thing to see.
Yes, my favorite part is the light bulbs, and especially those light bulbs around tech, because what most people don't realize is that tech is actually very simple. Like once you learn what one thing does, like it's mind-blowing for some people. I remember when one student in particular, Tina Hanzi, started using Lead Magics, and she was completely blown away because she had been spending all of her time messaging her just to communicate with her team. It took her 2 hours every day. I mean, she has a pretty big team, right? And so to communicate with her team, to be sending messages, to be promoting her business, it was hours and hours and hours a day that she was spending in Messenger. It was downloading Lead Magics, learning what a couple of the buttons did. It took her a teeny bit of time, you know, to import those people and to put them on whatever list inside of Lead Magics that they belonged. But she was like, you guys, it is saving me at least 4 to 5 hours a day, Lead Magics alone, because everyone is right there. She sends one message, it goes to everyone, right? Like it's just a matter of writing the message. She sends it rather than having to copy and paste it over and over and over again to everybody. So I guess that's a wrap. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, guys. Take care.